Oh, James Madison!
Aaron Burr!
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
How you enjoying Philadelphia?
It's going well, though I'm tiring of Congress.
Still a bachelor?
Unfortunately, yes.
I'm sure you'll find your happiness eventually.
I sure hope so. No girl has caught my fancy as of late. I'm looking for a strong-willed woman, but those are hard to find around. Actually, there's one girl across from the boarding house that I am staying at currently. You talked to her at the market the other day. Do you know who I'm talking about?
She goes by Dolly Todd. Her husband died a year ago, which means she's single.
Say, good pal, do you mind introducing us?
Yeah, she'll actually be at a party at the Capitol tomorrow. Shall I introduce you there?
Absolutely.
Dolly, how's Payne doing today? Oh, he's doing great. He's growing so fast. The other day he went fishing with his friends. I was sad to see him go.
Yes, they grow too fast. Did you hear about Mrs.
Dolly,
Ellsworth?
Dolly. Excuse
Hello,
me.
Aaron. Hello.
Good evening. I have a friend I would like you to meet.
All right.
Oh, good evening.
This is my friend James Madison.
It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
The pleasure is all mine. Would you care for a dance?
I would love to.
Dolly, James, and Payne lived in Philadelphia for the next 3 happy years. As James was not a Quaker, Dolly was expelled from the Society of Friends. Since she was no longer a Quaker, she started to dress in more fashionable styles. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson was elected president and asked James Madison to serve as his Secretary of State, so the Madison family moved to Washington.
the ladies that President Thomas Jefferson is planning to retire?
'Tis no rumor.
The election season is upon us. Do you know who's planning to run?
I heard that Charles Pickney was planning on winning. But personally, I think Mr. Madison should run. I don't know how you feel about all the responsibility, but I think he would be a great president.
I believe he would thrive in that position. Lord knows he wouldn't know what to do with himself without politics, and he's never balked at the thought of responsibility.
So you want him to run then?
Who could be better? He would make a great leader. It's getting to be supper time. You're welcome to stay if you'd like.
Oh, thank you, but Albert will be expecting me home.
It's lovely to see you, Hannah.
You as well.
So how many charities are you scheduled to work this week?
As many as we can. Service to a community is crucial to its improvement. And while we're working, we can catch up.
Speaking of catching up, Dolly, is it true that your husband is running for president?
It was decided this week. We are very excited to begin this new adventure.
Well, at least he has a sensible woman like you to keep his head on straight.
James would be fine on his own. Although it couldn't hurt to have me by his side.
Yesterday, I overheard Charles Pickney tell another lad I have a better chance of facing Madison alone, especially with you helping this campaign.
Now, let's not count our chickens before they hatch. It is almost supper time. And remember, ladies, I am having a gathering here the night after next, and you are all welcome.
James Madison won the presidential election in 1809. Dolly helped to get him the votes by never ceasing to serve her community. At the inauguration ceremony, Dolly showed off her famous red velvet dress. The work didn't stop for Dolly after James was elected. It only piled on. She took on the task of furnishing the White House with architect Benjamin Henry Latrobe. She was well known for her social graces and hospitality. She was also given an honorary seat on the floor of Congress. Dolly greatly contributed to her husband's growing popularity as president. In 1812, James Madison was re-elected. This was also the year that a war began with Great Britain.
Dolly! How long has it been since I've seen you last? How are you?
I'm doing well.
I trust Mr. Madison is in good health?
He's physically well, although the British are making him a bit concerned.
How bad is the situation?
It is said that the British made an attempt to invade Canada, and they're attacking the coast and moving toward Delaware. People are starting to lose faith in James. Residents of Washington are packing up their homes and their families because they've lost hope. But I'm not losing hope until all hope is lost.
I'm sure you are right.
The British crawled their way closer to Washington. British troops attacked Havre de Grace, Maryland, on May 4th, 1813, and they tried to take over the Craney Islands, near Norfolk, Virginia, in June of that same year. Rumors that the president and Dolly were planning to leave the city spread, but Dolly had no such plan. She wrote to her friend, Hannah Nicholson Gallatin, about the matter.
We have been in a state of perturbation here for a long time. The depredations of the enemy approaching within 20 miles of the city and the disaffected making incessant difficulties for the government. Such a place as this has become, I cannot describe it. I wish we were in Phila. The people here do not deserve that I should prefer it. Among other exclamations and threats they say, if Mr. M attempts to move from this house, in case of an attack, they will stop him and that he shall fall with it. I am not the least alarmed at these things, but entirely disgusted and determined to stay with him.
Dolly continued to keep high spirits within her household. On August 17, 1814, a large British fleet dropped anchor only 35 miles away from the capital. They began to advance on Washington, and there wasn't a single trained American soldier to oppose them. President Madison called out thousands of militia and asked General William Winder to lead the amateurs. But Winder was an incompetent commander and didn't help the situation. Dolly, whose determination to stay with her husband was unwavering, remained in Washington.
There are 100 militiamen on the lawn, ma'am.
I am aware. I intend to stay here until the British have left Washington, and Mr. Madison wanted them to stay and protect this home. But since Mr. Madison has left to take care of affairs elsewhere, the task of protecting his home is left to me.
I understand, ma'am. A messenger arrived this morning saying that your son Payne arrived safely at his Aunt Lucy's home this morning.
Glad to hear it. Now, tell the cooks to prepare a meal for tonight's dinner party. There's nothing like a gathering to boost morale.
Yes, ma'am.
Come in.
A letter arrived for you, miss.
Thank you, Charlotte.
I have made it to Maryland, where the British are currently located. I'm confident our troops are large enough to gain an easy victory.
Dear sister, my husband left me yesterday morning to join General Winder. He inquired anxiously whether I had courage or firmness to remain in the president's house until his return on the morrow or succeeding day, and on my assurance that I had no fear but for him and the success of our army. He left me, beseeching me to take care of myself and of the cabinet papers, public and private. I have since received 2 dispatches from him, written with a pencil. The last is alarming, because he desires I should be ready at a moment's warning to enter my carriage and leave the city, that the enemy seemed stronger than had been reported, and that it might happen that they would reach the city with intention to destroy it. I am accordingly ready. I have pressed as many cabinet papers into trunks as to fill 1 carriage. Our private property must be sacrificed, as it is impossible to procure wagons for its transportation. I am determined not to go myself until I see Mr. Madison safe and he can accompany me, as I hear of much hostility towards him. Disaffection stalks around us. My friends and acquaintances are all gone, even the colonel with his 100 men who are stationed as a guard in the enclosure.
Is that all, ma'am?
That's fine. Thank you, Margaret. Wednesday morning, 12 o'clock. Since sunrise, I have been turning my spyglass in every direction and watching with unwearied anxiety, hoping to discern the approach of my dear husband and his friends. But alas, I can descry only groups of military wandering in all directions, as if there was a lack of arms, or of spirit to fight for their own firesides.
Little did Dolly know, the army that's purpose was to confront the British at Bladensburg, 5 miles away from the White House, was no more. Although the boom of the cannon was within earshot, the battle remained beyond Dolly's sight. President Madison and General Winder were now retreating towards Washington. Dolly started packing valuables into a wagon, but still had no intention of leaving her precious White House.
3 o'clock. Will you believe it, my sister? We have had a battle or skirmish near Bladensburg, and I am still here within sound of the cannon. Mr. Madison comes not. May God protect him. 2 messengers covered with dust come to bid me fly, but I wait for him. At this late hour, a wagon has been procured. I have had it filled with the plate and most valuable portable articles belonging to the house. Whether it will reach its destination, the Bank of Maryland, or fall into the hands of British soldiery, events must determine.
Charles is concerned with the safety of us all. We're wondering what you'll do without militiamen on the front lawn.
If I were a man, I'd post a cannon in every window of the White House and fight till the bitter end. I'm not abandoning my home or my husband. Come in.
You have a visitor, miss.
Dolly,
Mr. Carroll.
why are you still here? It is far too dangerous for you to be here. We need to leave now.
I can't. I can't leave my home and I can't leave my husband. James will return and I will be here when he does.
James is not coming back here. He knows it is far too risky and he wants you to leave with me. Please, Dolly, we need to go.
I don't know if I can.
Dolly, please, we need to get out of here now.
All right.
Let's go out the back door. No one will see us that way. What are you doing?
I will not leave this to be mocked and desecrated by the enemy. Take this down. Break the frame if you have to.
What are you guys still doing here?
We run into some, complications.
What do you need me to do?
Go get the,
Once they take the painting down, take it to a safe place. Conceal it from the British at all costs. I have 2 more tasks and then we can leave.
Do what you must, but be quick. The British are only a few miles out by now.
I swear I will be down by the back door in a quarter of an hour. Our kind friend, Major Charles Carroll, has come to hasten my departure and is in a very bad humor with me because I insist on waiting until the large picture of General Washington is secured and it requires to be unscrewed from the wall. This process was found too tedious for these perilous moments. I have ordered the frame to be broken and the canvas taken out. Now it is done, and the precious portrait placed in the hands of one gentleman of New York for safekeeping. And now, dear sister, I must leave this house, or the retreating army will make me a prisoner in it by filling up the road I am directed to take. When I shall again write you, or where I shall be tomorrow, I cannot tell.
We must go now.
Would you please ensure this gets to my sister Lucy?
Of course. Now let's go.
That night, the British soldiers reached the White House. First, they ran through the house, eating the meal Dolly had planned to serve, and mocking the Madison family. When the house was stripped of the value it had left, the order was given to burn it to the ground. Torches flew into the night sky. Not far away, a Navy yard was set on fire. For a time, it looked as if all of Washington was ablaze.
My dearest husband, our beloved house was burned to the ground. I got away safely, but if it weren't for the help of Major Carroll, I don't believe I would have left at all. I am now at his residence near Georgetown and can't bring myself to have any happy thought. My hope is completely lost. I can't bear to think of the blackened remains of our White House. The only thing I am grateful for at this moment is that you are safe.
On August 25th, 1814, the British tried to burn an arsenal on Greenleaf's Point, 2 miles south of the capital, and it unexpectedly exploded. 30 men were killed and 45 were injured. The British were shaken by this, but it took a freak storm to make them retreat to their ships. The attack on the capital had now ended. On August 27th, James re-entered the burned city. He wrote Dolly, telling her that she couldn't return soon enough. The words seemed to show his need for her companionship, but he also knew she was a symbol of his presidency. On August 28th, Dolly joined her husband in Washington, and the sight of the Capitol ruined whatever spirit the couple had left. For several days, Dolly was sorrowful. Dolly and James insisted that the Capitol be rebuilt and not moved. The White House was rebuilt exactly like the old one. After many more battles, a peace treaty was signed on December 24, 1814. Dolly did what she had always done and threw a party to celebrate the end of this heartbreaking war. Dolly Madison is the reason we have written documents by James Madison today, because she sold them to Congress to try and save the Madison family plantation after James had passed. James Madison died during his breakfast on June 28, 1836. He is buried in the family cemetery at Montpelier. Dolly died at her home in Washington in 1849 at the age of 81. She was first buried in the Congressional Cemetery in Washington, D.C., but eventually was moved to Montpelier next to her husband. Dolly and James Madison were married for 42 years.